everyone, to the very first episode of Soul Adventure TV, where we explore what may very well be an unprecedented opportunity for humanity's spiritual and physical evolution and the choices standing before each and every individual to walk on this grand adventure. Or not. Do we really know who and what we are and what we can choose to be? To give us some exciting, intriguing insights into these questions, I am so happy to have Stan and Lisa Romanek, both of whom have shared the most extraordinary of experiences with direct ET contact and are the best-selling authors of the books Messages, the world's most documented extraterrestrial contact story, The Orion Regressions, Answers, and Lisa's book From My Side of the Bed. Stan and Lisa are also the subject of a soon-to-be-released documentary from J3 Films titled Extraordinary, The Stan Romanek Story. Welcome, Stan and Lisa. Stan, perhaps we could begin by you explaining for those few viewers who may not already be familiar with your story how your history of ET and UFO experiences began nearly 12 years ago in Colorado.
Well, it started with my first UFO sighting. It actually was a major UFO sighting in the fact that there were a lot of people around when it happened. I met my wife online in a chat room, believe it or not, and she lived in Nebraska and I lived here in Colorado. And I wanted to find a way to kind of entice her to come visit me in Colorado. So I thought, I'm going to send her a little care package, chocolates, flowers, and maybe videotape the skyline of Denver, show her how pretty it was. And it was a beautiful winter day. It was December 27th, right about noon, sunny out, beautiful snow covered, mountains and trees. And I headed up to the foothills of the Rockies, and I was going to videotape the skyline, but I never made it because off to the side of the road there must have been about 30 or so cars pulled off to the side of the road, and they were looking to my left above some power lines. Well, that would have been south above some power lines. And I looked up, and that's when I saw my first UFO, and that's basically when it all started.
Hmm. Another fascinating aspect of your case, which is, I have to say, is one of the most, if not the most, well documented case I've ever run across, are the multiple hypnotic regression sessions that you undertook, Stan, where the ETs actually spoke through you and answered questions. Is that something that you continue to do, those regressions?
Well, I've the last one I did was when
About
was
a
it?
year and a half.
About a year and a half ago, I'd say.
Oh no, about a year ago for J3. Yeah,
Oh
for the
yeah,
for the
I did
documentary.
it for the documentary film. I did a regression. It started out during one of the regression sessions I had. The normal hypnotherapist I was working with um, was doing a regression, and something happened. I changed my voice patterns, changed my mannerisms changed. And unlike most regressions, a regression session is not like they show you on TV. It's just basically like you're in a very, very deep daydream. And you can remember most everything about the regression. This was different, though. I didn't remember anything. And after I came out of it, I actually thought I fell asleep, and my wife was telling me something weird happened. And apparently, it scared the hypnotherapist so much that she instantly brought me out of the regression. So we were introduced to a gentleman by the name of Dr. Leo Sprinkle, and we told him about it, and he seemed fascinated. And we wanted to kind of go further with the regressions anyhow, so we hooked up with him. And when it happened, he let it happen, and some amazing stuff came through.
Well, and you have to understand, Stan wasn't just having these regressions done for no reason. The abduction experiences continued, the night writings of these equations continued, and our first session with Dr. Sprinkle was to find out if there was more to these equations. Something, because I watched him write a couple of these things, but while he was writing, he was unaware that he was doing it, and he just kept saying, "There's not enough room. I don't understand." Things like that. So he wanted to find out if there was more, to these equations that he wasn't getting.
And people need to understand I'm severely dyslexic. And some of these equations are known, some of them aren't. But it's really hard for me to talk about these I don't really like the word channeling. I mean, it was hard enough for me to deal with the fact that UFOs were real, and now I have to deal with all this weird paranormal stuff that I would have made, if somebody came up to me and said, "Oh, I believe in UFOs," I would have laughed at them, especially if they said, "Oh, something's talking through me." Forget it. There's how do people believe that? But it's real. We videotape all these sessions. Whatever this thing is, it's very advanced, and I mean, luckily we record the sessions because I have to look at it because I don't remember anything when it happens. And then we have to go and look up some of the words this thing uses because I'd never heard these words before.
What is your understanding of who or what it is, if I can even use the word it?
Okay.
It seems to be a council.
It's very hard for Stan to talk about this stuff.
I'll let her tell you.
And it took a lot of convincing, browbeating, whatever you want to call it.
No, it's browbeating.
To get the Orion regressions in book form, because that is where a lot of the messages are. It's fascinating. Every time I read it, and I've read it many times, I find something new. So it's a collection of 5 of Stan's sessions. But this being that started talking instead of Stan, and we knew, yes, dear, I know. We asked, what is your name? What are you called? And he says, I am not important. What we do is important. What Starseed, they call him Starseed all the time, Starseed does is important. But you can call me Grandpa if you want to. So we're like, okay, that's weird. But, it gives you this little fuzzy feeling, I guess. But he would, during the regression sessions, he puts up his hand a lot or stops. It's like he telepathically communicates with these other beings. And apparently it's a council of 3 that sometimes take turns being Grandpa, being the being that speaks through Stan. It's very strange, but it is what it is.
How do you explain that to your average person without sounding like a complete nutball?
Yeah.
This is really happening, and there's evidence in the video, in the documentary. You'll see this, and I talk about it in the book, and I actually show this at my presentations, where this thing actually lifted up its hands because a phone rang, stopped the phone from ringing, and teleported the phone through, I don't know how many walls, 3 walls to get it somewhere else so it would calm down, it wouldn't ring anymore.
There were 3 phones that were moved.
So,
3 phones.
If I understand you correctly, the phones literally disappeared.
Yes. From a closet through 3 walls, and were found across the house in a bedroom on the bed, lined up.
Oh my God.
And that's not where they started.
Now, for those that are interested, there are transcripts of these many of these sessions available in your books, correct?
Yes, in the Orion regressions, and probably the most impressive one, I think, is in my latest book, Answers.
Okay, great. Now, Lisa, I don't want to give the impression that you've been some kind of passive observer, standing by Stan while these things are happening. In fact, you've been an active participant almost from the very beginning, and some of these events have been happening to you as well. Am I correct?
Yes.
There's nothing passive about Lisa, just so you know.
What have these experiences taught you about humanity's origins, our past, or our future? Are we who we think we are?
What I've been taught is mankind doesn't know who they are. I saw something interesting on TV not that long ago. I was watching TV, and I don't usually watch the news, but I saw something on, I think it was 2020, not 2020, CNN. And they were talking about the Human Genome Project. And the head of the Human Genome Project came out on CNN live and said, look, humans, by the way, humans are only, a certain part human, and 30 to 40% of the rest of their DNA is not found on this planet. So what does that mean? Not only have I been told by those guys that humans are more than they understand, but when I saw this show on the news, it brought it home for me. And it's going to be very hard for the human population to accept the fact that, hey, humans are the hybrids. And then I learned that humans have these amazing abilities. These amazing abilities they don't even have. This ability to change quantum reality naturally. What that means is what we believe we manifest. It's a little bit different when it's one-on-one. It works better if there's a number of people involved. And I do an experiment with my presentations where I prove this point. And there are times I almost start crying because it works every time. And so it really talks about global consciousness. That being said, there are controlling factors, not factors, I'm going to say maybe whatever you want to call it, the global elite, the secret government that understands this ability we have, and they're trying hard to fight against it because they don't want to lose control. So what they do is they understand we have these abilities, so they keep us in fear. And because we believe what we believe we manifest, we control ourselves. All we have to do is understand what they're doing in their manipulations, and we don't have to put up with that, and we change everything.
Lisa, I wanted to ask you specifically what impact these experiences have had on your family life.
Well, we've been through some really tough times. A lot of fear, a lot of frustration, a lot of anger towards the extraterrestrials, towards each other, towards people who don't want to listen to us, against the people who break into our house, leave listening devices, that beat up Stan, that shoot at him. I mean, they almost killed him. And in the end, we are so blessed to have been on this journey. We really feel that way now. There was a time, 4 years ago, that if we could have made it stop, we would have. But, something changed, and it's just what we know now is just incredible. It's just, we are so thankful that we've been through this now.
And the message is for everybody. The ones that beat me up, the ones that, the secret government, whatever you want to call them, and I don't know who they are. The ones that are trying to stop this are the ones we're trying to reach the most, because they're the ones that are most lost. And this has affected even my stepkids. Everybody that gets involved has experiences. That's what makes my case so different. Everything that happens when there are people around. You get involved, the researchers, they start having experiences. We're having a conference coming up in Florida here at the end of June 2012, end of this month. And he got involved with us not that long ago. He's already starting to have experiences himself.
Wow. What do you think is, if anything, is special about this particular time in our history? In other words, why is all this stuff seemingly happening now?
The human race is at a crossroads. From what I understand, from what I've been told, every emerging race comes to this point. And either they make it and become enlightened and join the neighborhood, or by design, they reach an advanced stage of technology where they can self-destruct. They'll destroy themselves, basically. And if you don't become involved, you just destroy yourself, and then the rest of the evolved species that are out in the neighborhood don't have to worry about you. Either way, it's a safety mechanism. And we are at that stage right now. Do I believe in this Mayan stuff that's going on 2012? Absolutely not, and I'll tell you why. I've done a lot of research, and it's actually in my book, Answers. The research I've done, number one, if you talk to the Mayan elders today, they think white people are crazy. They really do. And there is no word apocalypse in their language. And not only that, if you try to pair the Gregorian calendar, is what we use today, to the Mayan calendar, you can't compare them. It just doesn't work. They're arguing among scholars how to compare them. You just can't. And then take in the factor when Julius Caesar invented leap year, the Mayans knew nothing about leap year. So technically, if the world was going to end, it should have ended a year, maybe even 2 years ago now.
But
Hmm.
the point is that the shift is happening. Things aren't going to be wonderful. It's going to be tough. And I have something I'd like to read for you, if that's okay.
Oh, please.
It's from a Hopi elder. We are the ones we've been waiting for. You've been telling the people that this is the 11th hour. Now you must go back and tell the people that this is the hour. And there are things to be considered. Where are you living? What are you doing? What are your relationships? Are you in right relation? Where is your water? Know your garden. It's time to speak your truth. Create your community. Be good to each other. Do not look outside yourself for the leader. This could be a good time. There is a river flowing now, very fast. It is so great and swift that there are those who will be afraid. They will try to hold onto the shore. They will feel that they are being torn apart. They will suffer greatly. Know the river has its destination. The elders say we must let go of the shore, push off into the middle of the river, keep your eyes open and your heads above the water. See who is there with you and celebrate. This is a time in history where we are to take nothing personally, least of all ourselves. For the moment for the moment that we do, our spiritual growth and journey comes to a halt, and the time of the lone wolf is over. Gather yourselves, banish the word struggle from your attitude and your vocabulary. That all we do now must be done in the sacred manner and in celebration. We are the ones we've been waiting for.
Oh, that's so inspiring. When was this spoken, or when was this recorded?
I think it was in 2006.
Interesting, interesting. And it
That's
was,
when or 2008 maybe.
2008.
2008 when the shift actually began.
and this was, did you say a Hopi shaman?
Hopi
Hopi
elder.
elder.
A Hopi
Hopi elder.
elder.
Mhm.
Fascinating. Stan, one of the questions that I have about your experiences is if this really all has to do with human evolution, why are the extraterrestrials so seemingly interested? Does it impact them somehow too?
Um, you have to understand, and I truly believe this. There are, as it is in heavens, it is so on earth. There are multiple things up there with multiple agendas. And there's good and bad up there, just like there's good and bad here. I believe that people think, and I argue with these people sometimes. They believe that we're three-dimensional beings living in a spiritual or living in a multi-dimensional universe. I believe that we're multidimensional beings living in a three-dimensional reality, and that this third dimensional reality or they call it vibrations, I guess, or densities.
Density.
This third density is like the roots of a tree, and if you kill the tree, kill the roots of the tree, you kill the whole tree. And that's one of the reasons I believe that they're interested in us. And you also have to understand that some of these beings, not only are they multidimensional beings, but they're physical beings, and there are, some of them are us from the future.
Wow, right. Yeah, you mentioned that earlier in our discussion, and that's just fascinating that they may have contributed what DNA to our species, or how.
Well, according to what I understand, and again, this is in my book, we are a conglomeration of a bunch of different things. And we are all, everything in this universe is part of the oneness. Everything in this universe is part of the God source, God, whatever you want to call it. That being said, we need to represent what we're from, who we're from. And it's all about love, it's all about understanding. That's what changes everything. And there are people out there fighting up there as well as down here. They don't want us to succeed because, number one, the guys up there that are against us are against our potential. They're afraid of our potential. And once we realize who we are, it really is a game changer.
Well, you came directly to my next question, talking about our potential. What is our potential? What are we evolving into?
Well, if we're from God, if everything is from the source, from the oneness, our potential is limitless. We could go on and on and on and on and on. And to me, it's really, from what I understand, it's really not about the end result, it's about the experiences. And that's how God or the oneness are, because we are of that, that's how God or the oneness learns through us.
Wow. Lisa, is this evolution something that we as individuals can actually opt out of?
I think we all have free choice. We were given that from the time we were created. Um, and, I really think that the people that's, Stan was talking kind of about how this transition is going to happen, people may be left behind. The ones who are being left behind may not be soul ready, spiritually ready. It's not like they're going to be left in this burning hell in this horrible place. It's just, does that make sense?
Yes, it's for me. It's all about choice. Do you agree?
Yes.
And that's the journey. We've been given a choice to see what we do with it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about the learning process. And this shift that we're in, some of them aren't going to want to go because they're frightened. And again, it's all about fear. And fear is a controlling factor. That's how this global elite or whatever control the masses, through fear.
Yeah.
A source I trust very much says the job of fear is to spread more fear.
Absolutely. That's perfect.
We got to get away from that. It controls every moment of our lives if we allow it.
Absolutely.
It's a pollutant.
Now, we've talked about individual choices and individual consciousness. And then we've also sort of talked about group consciousness. How do those two play against each other in the choices that we're going to make or may make in regards to this transition?
Well, I think individually we are very powerful beings. And Stan and I, try to meld our two perspectives of this, in that the things we say and do every day of our lives affect not only ourselves but other people. But we have to begin with ourselves. So putting out that, you're miserable, you need, you want, you're all the negatives. The more you put that out, the more you bring that into yourself. Is it? I mean,
So, in other words, to say, I need money, you're going to get the need. You're going to get the need part. Don't
not the
say it
money.
that way. Say, I will have money. I am going to get money. I will pay my bills this month. Instead of, I need money so I can pay my bills. It's like that, in Star Wars where Luke Skywalker is there with Yoda and Yoda's teaching him some stuff and he's trying to levitate that spacecraft out of the water.
Yes.
And he goes, I don't believe it. And Yoda goes, and that is why you fail. That's perfect. I mean, that's really what it's about. And it's about this ability to change quantum reality naturally.
but when you get a large group of like-minded, very positive people, you create global consciousness. You create this very, very, very powerful energy. Individually, we have it to affect ourselves and the people that are close to us. But globally, like this global consciousness is just absolutely amazing.
And there's, like I said earlier, I do this test at the end of my presentation that proves this. And the reason I found this test is because of some research I did that had to do with the Maharishi Maharishi University, in correlation with Harvard, did this experiment. They went,
Maharishi effect, right?
they call it the Maharishi effect. Yes, thank you. Where they said they can, by just using, I think it's 1% or is it 10% of the population of a city, just through prayer and meditation, they can drop the crime rate. So they found the worst crime-ridden city, which, believe it or not, is Washington D.C. And they went to the police department there, and they said, "Look, we'd like to try this experiment, and please let us know what happens." And they laughed at them at first, but they thought, well, what could it hurt? So not only did they drop the crime rate to 20%, but the time they did this experiment, the crime rate should have risen 20%. So in total, it dropped the crime rate 40%. Now they've done this experiment over and over and over, and it's worked every single time.
Do you think it's going to require for this transition to happen a certain percentage of the world to elevate itself, or is it purely an individual choice and an individual experience?
It has to be more people believe than not. There's going to be it has to be past 50%, and I don't know what we've been told, what I've learned. There has to be more people believe than not, and once that happens, the shift is almost instantaneous.
And right now, most of the Roper polls and things like that are saying 70 to 80% of at least Americans believe.
Believe in
In,
what?
it,
Believe in
that we're not alone.
extraterrestrials, believe in UFOs, believe in the unity. It's incredible.
But that's just the United States.
You
Now
know?
we have to get the world involved.
But the rest of the world are opening their files and releasing the proof. We're
Stuff's
not,
happening.
So
Stuff's
that's
happening.
pretty incredible that we, the people of our United States.
And it's not gonna come from the governments. It's gonna come from us. What's interesting is, and a lot of people in the United States don't know this, every country pretty much in the world has opened their files to prove that extraterrestrials are real, including the Vatican 3 years ago came out and said, "Oh, by the way, there are multiple types. Some look like us, and it's not a sin to believe in them."
Monsignor Balducci.
Monsignor Balducci, right-hand man of the Pope, a good friend of ours, Paula Harris, was instrumental in getting them to do this. So things are definitely changing.
Yeah.
And Lisa, I wanted to especially commend you for your courage and for your service, in particular for being so open about these unusual events that have been occurring now to both of you for, 12 plus years, and including what seem to be hybrid ET offspring that are connected to Stan. So, as a wife, as a mother, how do you come to grips with that? Is it something that you now accept, or do you in any way question it still?
Well, I know that they're real. I know that they exist, but it's still very hard for me to accept it completely without actually having a physical contact with them. Yes, we've seen them, but not as parents. It's
They aren't with us right now. I mean, we've seen them in physical form. I've photographed them. They've showed up at conferences, stuff like that. But I think what Lisa's trying to say is, as a parent, you worry about them. You wonder if they're okay,
And it's easier to just kind of pretend that they're not real in order to emotionally be able to get through not knowing if they're okay, not knowing if they're being nurtured or cared for. It's a lot of emotional stuff.
Right.
And, a lot of people ask me, it's like, well, how are you okay with these other women being involved with Stan? And it's, I was very fearful that he would find this woman that he has 7 children with. But at the same time, after getting 6 years of searching for her, he finally found her. She walked into a conference, actually, that he was doing. And in getting to know her and, really doing some soul searching of my own, I had to realize, it wasn't an affair. No one who is involved in any of these abductions, these contacts with these beings who are parents of these children, had a choice in it, not a conscious choice. It wasn't anything lurid or, it wasn't cheating. So I had to really come to terms with being okay with Victoria and our friend Heidi also, who is a mother of one of the children too.
Well, I can't let us go too much further without asking you the big question: what are these children like?
Well,
We saw our first child during one of the kids during a surprise book release party. Well, surprise book party Lisa threw for me when I became a best-selling author. And they're physical. I mean, we've talked to them over the phone. As bizarre as that sounds, it's real. We were warned that they were going to show up at one of the conferences I was attending or I was speaking at in Aztec, New Mexico. There were multiple witnesses. We got pictures. In fact, the pictures of the ones I mean, they were in our backyard even. Um, we've got pictures. You can go see them in
but
the book.
but the very strange thing about them is they run very fast because Stan chases them. So it's like stop chasing the kids, Stan. But
What?
it's like they disappear like that. So they are very much interdimensional
They
beings.
have to be. That's the only way to explain it.
They can be physical, but they can disappear very quickly.
Do they look more like us or like Greys or what?
No, they look very human. I mean, they have our facial features, they have hair, they have, little children bodies.
Very, very different though. I mean, they're almost angelic, like little China dolls, very thin, but beautiful children. And mainly it's their eyes, very slanted, way, way too big for human eyes, very blue, almond-shaped eyes. And if you get my book Answers, you see the picture, one of the pictures in there where the little girl is sitting down and she only has three fingers and a thumb.
I forgot, we're not doing radio. We could actually show a picture, couldn't we?
Yes, you could. Please do.
If I can find it.
And back.
Go
So,
ahead, keep talking about it then.
there are, and we've caught more than just one. We've caught one looking in our window. One was picking flowers in my wife's in our backyard. My wife's flowers.
Can you see that?
Right. And now this appears to be taken at some kind of conference or
Yeah, at the Aztec, New Mexico, Aztec UFO conference. There's
wow.
multiple people there. I mean, this this is a odd in and of itself, but the conference was being held at a Mason's lodge, and the head Mason came up to me, he had tears in his eyes, and was shaking because he said, Stan, these weren't human. I know they weren't human. My God, I don't know what to do. They weren't human. And these people were freaking out, and this one little girl actually approached a woman, and you know, talked about not being able to find her dad, and she wanted to leave a message for her dad. And then after my talk, she came up to me and left the message for me. So
And the strange thing about this child was Victoria knew that the eldest little girl's name is Kioma. Heidi knew that her daughter's name is Trilly. But I said, okay, if I have a child, then why don't I know her name? So this girl at this conference actually told this woman, as part of the message, tell Lisa my name is Suri.
Oh.
and if you
So
look at the picture of this little girl that we took a picture of, and you look at a picture of Lisa when she was a little girl, oh my God, it almost looks like the same picture. It's crazy.
Those children are beautiful. They seem to be I think you used the word angelic, and
Absolutely.
it actually comes through even in the pictures, in the black and white pictures there.
mhm.
Um, Now, unfortunately, you as a couple and Stan, you've had some rather nasty encounters with. You
Yeah.
mentioned these, the powers that be, and people roughing you up that seem to be against this process, or at least hiding the facts around it. Why would anyone want to do that? Wouldn't this transition be good for everyone?
Well, I've been beaten up. I've been shot at. We get threats all the time. We recently found our second listening device in our house just a few weeks ago, and it's about control. They don't want to lose control. This is a game changer. Once we realize who we are and that we aren't alone anymore, it changes everything. And when we find out that we don't have to depend on oil, that there is clean, free energy out there, the oil companies are freaking out. They don't want to lose control.
Oil companies, gas companies, electric
You
companies.
name it. And not just that. the people, the global elite that want to control us, the big money machines that want to control us, especially, the war machine, they aren't going to, nobody's going to listen to them anymore. They're going to be obsolete, and they're trying to fight. It's like in World War II, the Japanese, when the war was over, didn't know the war was over, some of them.
Right.
And that's kind of what's going on here, I believe.
So, what's going on currently with you both? I understand you have a conference coming up. Tell us about that.
Yes, we do. It's June 29th and 30th in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And it's called the Romanek Disclosure Event. And, I think it's very important that if you're able to come, please do. And we really appreciate you having us on your show and the other radio programs also, just so that we can actually tell our story.
And get the message out.
Because it's so very important that people know this stuff, whether they believe it or not. Once they hear it or once they see it, they tell us all the time that we've changed their lives. And that's a very powerful message. So, it's called Disclosure, the Romanek Disclosure Event, because Stan's going to show 3.5, 4 hours of videos of his experiences, pictures, documents from the government of some of these cover-ups.
I've been given 120 top secret documents from a 3-star general, that nobody else has, and I'm going to speak the 29th. Lisa's going to speak the 30th, and then we're going to have a night watch. And a lot of times we just won a night watch, sky watch in Texas, in Glen Rose, Texas, and a UFO came down and beamed everybody at the.
Oh.
Yeah, we were on the Odom Ranch where the Stevensville Lights sighting happened. So yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yep.
Wow. How can people learn more about your story and keep up to date?
Well, there's going to be a documentary feature film coming out sometime, hopefully this next fall. Or you can go to my website, stanromanek.com, STANROMANEK.com, or lisaromanek.com. Or Lisa has this amazing blog now, and I am so jealous.
And you can get to that blog simply by clicking the little e-blog button on my website.
Excellent.
You can connect with me to Facebook, Twitter,
We're
and
all
my
on
blog.
Facebook and Twitter and all that other stuff too. So
The one-stop shop.
Well, I want to thank you both again for being so generous with your time and for sharing these extraordinary experiences with our audience. And we invite visitors to leave comments and questions on the Soul Adventure TV website or on YouTube. And please feel free to share this video. This information, as you said, is meant for everybody.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
thanks for having us.